Hey there, welcome to another session of the Deconstructing Faith Summit. I'm your host, Angela de Harrington, and we're going to have some fun. I don't know if you saw the title of the session. If you did, and it made you a little nervous, don't worry, we're going to get a little nerdy, but we're also going to have a lot of fun. So this session is, of course, Kit Kennedy. Kit is a blogger and podcaster from the world's most livable city, Melbourne, Australia. She grew up as the eldest daughter of evangelical pastors, was homeschooled, fully versed in purity culture, not just a little bit, but fully versed in purity culture, dominionism, quiverful light, complementarianism, and a mixed bag of terrible theology. So that sounds like a bag we need to get in the dumpster pretty quickly. She thought she found her happy ever after when she was set up with the one for her life, a gay conversion therapy success story. But of course, you know, there's a plot twist looming here. So without reading all the rest of your bio, I just want to say hello and welcome. Could you just fill people in? What was the plot twist? Where, like, how was life different than that terrible theology painted your future?
Okay, all right. So about, we must be coming up to 6.5 years ago, on the day I found out that I was pregnant with our sweet, sweet boy, my dear now ex-husband, my newly minted gay bestie, had a fight with my dad, which resulted in our excommunication from the church my dad runs. So we stuck around in our hometown because I particularly felt a huge debt to the other survivors of that church, because there was a lot of toxic stuff that had gone on. And sometimes when you're the kind of person like me who just really feels the collective energy, you know, you can kind of feel like you're swimming in this dark ocean of other people's stories and just really kind of carrying that all on your back. But so the first few years of our deconstruction were actually marked also by him going, no, I'm straight. No, I'm bi. And me going, yeah, you're bi. You're bi. You're bi. You're bi. Please be bi. Please be bi. Bye. And then, sorry, this is not emotion. This is my tonsillitis. 2 years ago, just before the pandemic started, we were going really well. And he said to me, you know, we're going really well. And I said, yeah. And he said, I'm still calling helplines a lot. And I said, yeah. And he said, we both deserve love. And I said, yeah. And he said, we need to transition this marriage to a friendship. And so then we moved from our hometown and everything we knew as a newly separated couple in the height of a pandemic.
Oh my goodness.
To Melbourne to escape harassment from the church, but also to escape just constantly leaving the house and people be going, oh, this is my story of what happened, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And, oh, you're so brave. And I'm like, you know what? Survivors never set out to be brave. We don't want to be brave. We want to be happy. We want to be safe. We want to be loved. And, you know, and we have to survive. So, you know, we never set out to be heroes. We set out to just to be happy, normal people. And then we find ourselves cast in these roles. So, so he now lives literally 200 meters that way.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. And we're raising two beautiful kids together. He actually helped get gay conversion therapy banned in the state of Victoria.
Yes.
But not only that, it was a survivor-led legislation.
Oh, fantastic.
Which actually was conversion practices, so sexual orientation or gender identity change efforts that took into consideration everything. We all know you don't just go and sign up for gay conversion therapy. It's the pastoral counselling, it's the preaching that anti-gay, anti-trans rhetoric from the pulpit, it's the small group kind of, you know, prayer and, you know, it's all that rhetoric that puts the internalized homophobia, you know, that puts the monster inside, that makes you think that you're just, you know, and I'm not going to talk anymore about that because of the LGBTQ people that may be watching. Are beautiful and whole and all of the things that you are supposed to be, But, you know, it's this legislation actually recognised the insidiousness of all of these practices. It's now illegal in the state of Victoria, and
Fantastic.
I got to, you know, support him through that. And, you know, and we continue to kind of just do little things to kind of march the slow march towards justice. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that. It's of course a very present conversation that a lot of us are having, and there are days where it feels like it's getting worse. So thank you for sharing that. Anyone who's sitting here watching this right now, who's fighting for that legislation, who's fighting that battle within their own family, sometimes it just helps to know that people are making, right? And that change is happening, even if it's not happening in your immediate community, in the ways that we wish it would. There are other pockets of people who are fighting the same fight. And that's how we get to a tipping point. So thanks for sharing that. And also that, you know, sharing your experience and talking about your upbringing is a fantastic segue into this topic. We're talking about religious trauma and the nervous system. So you're not just sitting back in a comfy chair, never have experienced any religious trauma and saying from the outside, this is what it looks like. You're doing this from the inside. And I would assume that, like many of us in the deconstruction space, this is coming from your own work on yourself. Yeah. And now you're able to share that wisdom. So let's dive in. Let's dive in. Religious trauma and the nervous system. Where you want to go first?
So thank you, first of all, for having a nerd talk about nerdy things. But I think it's a really important topic because, you know, deconstruction, it's such an onion, isn't it? It's an onion. That's just the layers to it. But this doesn't just come from my lived experience as a deconstructing person, but also I've been writing for neuroscientists in my job, and I'm studying neuroscience at the moment as well at a postgrad level, and having a lot of therapy at the same time. So guys, I've paid for the lessons that I'm teaching you tonight, and I'm also being paid to write them. So
hey, that's a good gig if you can get it. Yeah,
it is a good gig. It's a good gig. So look, when we talk about deconstruction, we put a lot of mental effort into it. We're thinking about it, we're kind of analyzing it, and we also know there's this layer of trauma that goes alongside it. And sometimes we can feel guilty that even though we're smart and we know that it's religious trauma and we know it's deconstruction, that there's also this other element of, why can't I function better than this? Why do I have these days where, you know, where I can't get out of bed, or I can't function, or where something just triggers me so bad? And it was only a few months ago, probably 6 months ago, that I started to click that it's not just a matter of deconstruction, it's actually also a matter of deconditioning. Now, on that note, I just need to do a little bit of nerdy work with you here so that we can really talk about deconditioning. And I want to talk to you about the nervous system, how it works. So most of us know that we live our lives through our nervous systems. All of our, you know, senses, all of our, you know, our sight, smell, you know, touch, taste, all that kind of stuff. All of our perception is through our nervous system. It's also the thing that we have something called the autonomic nervous system, which would have been easier if they just called it the automatic nervous system, because it's everything that's automatic. That would have been, you know, just do us a solid, call it the automatic nervous system. It governs everything that you don't think about. So breathing, sweating, blood sugar, blood pressure, how much light that your eyes are taking in, how much sound your ears are taking in. And it's further broken down into sympathetic and parasympathetic. So sympathetic, we think of it as fight or flight. So in our primitive, because I'm not going to talk about our God-given anything at the moment, we're just going to go in our primitive evolutionary state, if you can make that jump. the caveman needs to be running from the bear or, you know, or the lion. So he needs blood sugar to be available to him so he can burn it. And he needs to be able to see everything. So his pupils are dilated. He needs his hearing to be on point. So, you know, all of that stimuli is coming in. He doesn't need to be digesting lunch, not important. So, you know, the gut function's right down there. He doesn't need to be thinking about not catching the flu because, quite frankly, he needs to be thinking about not getting caught by something else. So these are all the things that the nervous system does. Also, what he doesn't need to be thinking about is getting laid. So that's, you know, that's not part of the fight or flight sympathetic of the nervous system. What that is supposed to do is supposed to be over in the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, which we call the feeding or rhymes with ducking part of the nervous system. So,
that's the scientific name, right? Rhymes with ducking.
Rhymes with ducking. Yep. Rest, digest, repair, reproduce, all over on that side.
There we go. Okay.
So I'm using this particular example because when we're in this relaxed state, we're supposed to be able to conceive. We're supposed to be able to be in that state where we can connect with each other, where we can be, you know, feel safe, feel okay, where our bodies can recover, where we can, you know, recover from inflammation, where we can digest our meals. So salivation happens, you know, all of this is part of the autonomic nervous system. So it's pretty important, right? What's it got to do with church?
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll. Let me take you back to an experiment that is foundational to psychology. Yep. Pavlov's dog. We're not supposed to salivate unless we smell food. That's just part of the autonomic nervous system, our very intelligent nervous system. But if I smell like a chicken pie, I'm going to salivate. Like, that's what's supposed to happen. It's an automatic reaction. But Pavlov figured out this thing. He figured out he could condition the nervous system to respond in ways it wasn't supposed to by making two things happen at once. So he used dogs and he used powdered meat. So he'd ring a bell and then he'd send out the powdered meat, and the dogs learned to expect the powdered meat when they heard the bell. And eventually they'd salivate when they heard the bell. So we call it Pavlov's dog because it was the first time we learned about conditioning, that we could force the nervous system to do things that it wasn't supposed to do by conditioning it to do certain things. If we introduce stimuli at the same kind of time, we could basically force an unnatural state of being. So what has conditioning got to do with church? I'm going to use the most obvious example first. Let's talk about sex, baby. It's supposed to be over in the nice, calm side of the nervous system. It's supposed to be in the good side of the nervous system. You know, you're supposed to, like, you know, it's supposed to be a good thing. You're supposed to get the fanny flutters when you're attracted to somebody. Like, you know, you're supposed to, these things are supposed to happen. But when we've been trained to feel shame from the pulpit, we've heard, you know, to suppress the desires of the flesh, to, you know, save sex for marriage, and to feel shame if we haven't, or to feel shame if we've developed an emotional connection, then this internalized shame, like shame when we've noticed a guy, or shame when we've noticed a girl, or gosh, even more shame if we've noticed a girl and we are a girl, gosh, like, and then we have these layers. I spoke to someone, a friend of mine, and she was saying, I prayed to God that he would take away my sexual desires. I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And after months of praying and years of praying and just begging God to take away my sexual desires, he did. But they've never come back, and I've been married for so many years. And I thought to myself, honey, God didn't take away those desires. Pavlovian did.
Yeah.
And so that is why we have to not stop at deconstructing, but we actually have to work on deconditioning.
Yeah.
And that is where the work of deconstruction drops from the mind to actually a full body experience.
Mm-hmm.
And this is sometimes really scary stuff, because I don't know how you feel about church, or how you feel about religious trauma or various different things, but a lot of the time, my experience has been that people have told me that they've felt really kind of divorced from their bodies.
Yeah.
Because it's like, my body's telling me that this is dangerous, but I had to submit, or I had to say, everything within me was no, but I had to say yes. So we've had this relationship with our bodies where our fight or flight mechanisms are saying no, no, no. And we might be sweating, and which is a fight or flight mechanism. We might be, the heart rate might be going, the respiratory rate might be coming up, and our whole fight or flight mechanisms are saying no, 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 just like they should, but we're trying to suppress it because we're being good Christian girls, good Christian boys. And what we're doing here is we're conditioning a trauma response.
Yeah. If you've been to any of my trainings, we talk about this a little bit. We talk about getting into bear mode. And I would even take what you're saying just one step further. The conditioning, this is really, really important. I've been doing a lot of writing about this lately. The conditioning in the church intentionally separates you from your body. So if you're saying, I don't even know how to drop into my body, that's okay, because that's what you've been taught. So don't think that that's a brokenness, or that's a, I just don't know. Like it's just what you were taught. We have a whole nother session on that. It's just what you were taught. It's just your conditioning, which means even if it feels really hard right now, you can condition yourself differently. You can recover. You can learn new things.
Absolutely. That is 100%. Like, it's essential to remember that. And I'm going to give you some really practical things that you can do at your own pace. It's important to know that we talk about self-care a lot, and people can be really vague about this, about what self-care means. But the other thing is, self-compassion, I think, is a lot more important than self-care almost sometimes. Because if you're trying to do the self-care thing while you're being judgmental towards yourself for taking time out, then there's a conditioning about that too.
Right. You're reinforcing that old conditioning and also trying to introduce new conditioning. No wonder you're exhausted and frustrated and can't seem to get your footing.
You can be sitting in a nice relaxing bath going, it's fine, I'm relaxing. And you're just sitting in a cauldron of your own stress. Like it's, it's kind of, there's a certain irony here. We do need to, when we're talking about conditioning, I think it's important to acknowledge that a lot of people who have left the church, left particularly toxic churches, and often that involves, or too often that involves, leaving toxic family systems that have been connected with churches, leave with this little parting gift called complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, I'm really happy that complex PTSD has been added to the diagnostic manual, DSM-5, because PTSD didn't really capture the complexity of it. Where PTSD is more like you've experienced a car crash, or you've been in a war zone, and it's intrusive thoughts, and it's hyper arousal, and it's avoidance. CPTSD is more the conditioning. It's more that long-term exposure to these types of things that can create a really negative self-talk. Why can't I do better? Why can't I outthink this stuff? Why am I so long out of church and still battling this stuff? What is wrong with me? To which I'll say, nothing's wrong with you. You have been through something huge, And you can't just deconstruct, you also need to decondition. And one of the things that a big shift in the way research is treating PTSD and CPTSD is we're now not treating it just as a mental illness.
Yeah.
We're now looking at it, and they're calling it a psychobiological model of stress, or a psychobiological model of post-traumatic stress, because it's somatic, it's in the body, it's not just in the brain. What's happened is something's fired into the brain, the amygdala, which activates all of your limbic system, your emotions, it gives you that intensity of that memory. It creates misfires, and you end up with basically shrapnel wounds from your memory. And there was a brilliant book called The Body Keeps Score, which I highly recommend, which basically it shows how memory turns up in your body. And it can turn up. Sex is one classic example. I'll be real with you here. You don't want your fight, flight, freeze preference to be freeze on a date. That can be something. That was a discovery I made, is that my reaction was freeze. And, you know, so I've had to learn the art of speaking up, but that meant I had to learn boundaries. And when people throw it, and we'll talk about this when we get to the tools, people talk about boundaries like it's just something you can do. But when you've got submission and obedience without question all your life, when you don't know that you can withdraw consent, try having boundaries. Try just saying, you know, no. Like,
because it's not just a mental experience, like you're saying. It seems very simple to just say, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
But it's, remember, the trauma, like the shrapnel illustration you gave us is fantastic, because you have all of these little pieces throughout your body. So you may feel it in your stomach. You may not even be able to become sexually aroused because you've been conditioned that it's so far off limits that there's so much shrapnel there that your body's like, nope, not going there.
I know.
Right. So
what's that song, WAP, by whoever it was? Just like, let's reword that to DAP, because that's not happening. But you know, that even happens in married relationships, because we've been conditioned so much that you can't automatically recondition it across into, you can't just move it from column A to column B.
It takes time.
I want to give you another few examples of how this conditioning can work, though, because sex is the really obvious one. I was walking through a thoroughfare in a in a shopping center, and you know, I was just doing my thing, and then I just heard a busker. Do you have buskers in the States?
In some of the bigger cities.
So she was inside the shopping center, so it created a different kind of sound dynamic, but she was using a Roland keyboard on a really synthy sound, just playing atmospheric music, and my first reaction was to go and just shoot my hands into the air.
Because what did that activate in you? What was the
It sounded like worship music. I mean, of course, my reaction was more like a bank robber, stick 'em up kind of situation, and more of a fear response of, I need to be seen to be doing the right thing here. So, but the thing that I realized straight away, because I know my normal versus I know my stress bodily tells, elevated heart rate, elevated respiratory rate, dry mouth, taste of metal in my mouth. I knew that straight away, that I had been triggered. And I know we hate the word triggered, but it's what happened.
Because you didn't choose that response. The conditioning is so deep that your automatic system said, this is what needs to happen if we want to be safe. And I'm using safe in air quotes, but that's, you know, neurologically, that's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It can happen when you hear certain voices. It
Yep.
can happen when you hear certain scriptures. It can happen when you hear certain turns of phrase that you might have heard from a pulpit. It can happen when you smell certain smells. It might be carpet cleaners that you've used when you were on service that week and were vacuuming, or, you know, whatever it is. Like,
And again, it's just that conditioning. It takes time. So
yeah. And so, and in line with that, I want to say this. One, emotional flashbacks are a thing. So if an emotional flashback happens when all of a sudden, for no reason, you feel a similar sense of distress to what you haven't felt in a long time, and you can't put your finger on it, you don't know why it happened. Sometimes if you can't figure out why it happened, don't try. Ascertain your safety, accept that it was an emotional flashback, and don't judge yourself, and don't think that all the progress you've made has been lost. Emotional flashbacks happen. And sometimes we can go through this whole rabbit hole of what did I do wrong, and how have I let this happen, and, you know, am I right back where I started? We can catastrophize. We can think it's the judgment of God because, you know, we're out of covering or whatever. But sometimes what it is, it's an emotional flashback. We've hit some of that shrapnel again. We might not have realized that particular set of shrapnel was there. Don't judge yourself, just realize that an emotional flashback. So that's something that's important. Another thing is sometimes, you know, I've this one beautiful soul that I know of, has been out of church for 10 years. Thought they'd been well and truly clear of the mental health crash that can sometimes happen, and then bang, a new circumstance in life comes up and it's all there again. Don't judge yourself if you have a big moment like that kind of years after you thought you were past it. Because the thing is, trauma doesn't live in a prefrontal cortex with our executive function and our thinking and our, you know, cognitive control, impulse control. Trauma doesn't live there where we can rationalize our way past things. Trauma lives, you know, in the amygdala and the limbic system. It lives in other places in the body.
Everywhere but there. Everywhere except for the place that it would be really easy to fix.
Wouldn't it be beautiful if it lived in the prefrontal cortex? And my gosh, when I left church, boy, didn't I want to rationalize it. And I did a great job. Like my early days on the blog, I did some kick-ass pieces on bad theology and pulling it apart and blah, 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 blah. But the lived experience of unpacking the conditioning is it's been, you know, it's been real.
Because it's like you said, that I love, again, I know I said this like twice, but the idea of little pieces of shrapnel, when those come up, it really does start that fear spiral. And so even the conditioning, even learning to say, oh, I that's just something new that's come up. I don't have the muscle to deal with it yet. We have athletes in our house. We have a lot of runners. And so my husband and I have developed this language around, you're not dying, you're not failing, you're not screwing up. You just haven't developed that muscle yet. And what I noticed is as we started to use that language, it takes all the judgment out of it, because I can't be furious with my own inadequacies. If I haven't done the exercises to build that muscle because I didn't know I needed them. So much permission. If you stop blaming yourself for your own trauma response, which is actually just trying to keep you safe. All your body's trying to do.
Exactly. And you know what? That's a really kind way of putting it. I was talking to a friend the other day at a conference, and I said, oh, sometimes I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to kind of clear this really high bar where I need to accept that some days if I just get out of bed a little late, that's fine. But sometimes you got to put the bar on the floor and then be like, yes, I cleared it. So it's an act of self-compassion to just be like, you know what, you're breathing, your kids are alive, your kids know you love them. That's fine for today.
And if that's all you can do for today,
if you fed them fried chicken from a drive-through, fine, whatever.
Yeah, or if you called somebody else and said, I can't even go to the drive-through.
Yeah.
Drop some food. Like,
yeah,
it's okay. It's
and I've done that.
Absolutely okay. I have
I've
too.
done that. Yeah.
I have too. Yep.
Yeah. And in line with that, I have had people who've left churches be completely paralyzed by decisions like, how do I open a bank account? How do I get a car loan? How do I do these things? How do I choose a supermarket to go to? If you have days that are like that, it's okay. I know what it's like to have every action or inaction have a spiritual consequence. So to suddenly lose that, and you haven't lost the conditioning around the fear of making the wrong decision, you've just lost the worldview that's associated with it. So it takes time to normalize, and you can get help walking through that. In Australia, we've got some great helplines. Just Beyond Blue is one of them, Lifeline's one of them. I don't know what the helplines are in the States, but let me tell you, you don't have to wait until you're suicidal until you call one of these helplines.
Absolutely. That's the same here. Absolutely. You don't have to wait.
So just call them if you just are feeling distressed. But before I kind of talk too much about that, I just want to take you through some things that I've found that are really helpful in terms of actually kind of ascertaining where you are. Because we talked a little bit earlier about how you can be really divorced from your body, really not in your body, and how a lot of conditioning has to do with your awareness of your body. So when people say self-care, I don't know what I need. God.
Yeah. Somebody tell me what self-care looks like.
I don't know how to do this. So the first thing that I'll always say is, if you can, get a therapist.
Yep.
Get a therapist and you have every right to audition your therapists. Ask them if they're informed about religious trauma. Ask them if they're informed about purity culture and the damage of it. And if you get a cagey response on the phone when you inquire, they're not your person. Keep looking.
Right.
So you have every right to ask those questions. You don't just have to show up at a therapy appointment and go, here I am. So when I started therapy, my then husband, he actually called and he found someone who was skilled in high demand groups and high demand group exits and sexuality. And they've been brilliant. So that was a lifesaver. So know you can audition your therapist is the first thing.
And you can always walk away.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're 1 session or 50 sessions in.
Yeah.
If that intuition starts going off,
you
can just get a different therapist.
Yeah.
You don't have to explain it to anybody.
Yeah. So then let's talk about intuition. We're good at, in the church, we called it discernment, which was intuition.
Right.
It was our tuition, wasn't it? It was judgment. But we weren't good at us. So I want to talk to you about the subjective units of distress scale.
Okay.
SUDS, subjective units of distress. So it's a scale from 0 to 100.
Okay.
On the 100 end, you are as distressed as you could possibly be.
Okay.
You cannot string a sentence together. You're out of your mind. You needed to be in an emergency department half an hour ago.
Gotcha.
That's 100. You need to be in emergency care. That's 100. What does 0 look like for you? you need to know the answer to this.
Yeah.
What does it feel like in your body to be at 0? What does it feel like to be at 50? What does it feel like to be at 60 or at 70
Mm-hmm.
or at 80? Because nothing good happens in an argument or a stress situation when you're above 50. So learning to actually come back to that nice kind of 0 to 50 zone is really important. So let me tell you what my 0 is like. It's 22 degrees Celsius, just 22, 23. It's nice enough weather for a walk along the beach. I'm in a hammock. I'm reading a book. There's this nice breeze. My respiratory rate is about 40. I'm feeling like my arms feel nice and relaxed. My hands are steady. There's no tension in my belly. There's no tension in my calf muscles, my shoulders. I can roll them back. I feel fine.
Yeah.
When I move towards 50, I'm starting to just feel a little just uncomfortable.
Did those of you watching see that? Even just thinking about 50, watch the replay. Her body just shifted.
Yeah.
It's so visible. Yeah.
I didn't mean it.
But that's the thing is it's
Yeah.
an automatic thing. Even just
Yeah.
thinking about that level of stress, your body's like, ooh, what's going
Yeah.
on? So that
Yeah.
was beautiful.
And that's actually really interesting that you point that out, because the further I get towards 100, the more I make myself small.
Yeah.
So the more I hunch over, the more my hands start to shake, the more I can taste metal in my mouth, the more my respiratory rate picks up, the more I can, the more my heart starts to beat, the more my hands will start to shake, the more I might start jolting my leg around. I'll feel like this band of tightness will come around my head. I won't be able to articulate myself. So these are my body tells. Another body tell can be nausea, and this is often an extreme distress tell. A less extreme distress tell, unfortunately, is diarrhea.
Yeah, or headaches. There's a lot of people in my family who get headaches and even a low-grade fever.
Yeah.
From stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting. So this is a bit of homework that I think all of us can do. What is your 0? And what does it feel like on a body level to be so safe, to be so relaxed, to not be worried about anything? And you know what? You might not actually be able to get to a full 0 the first time you do this. You might need to do it again in 6 months. Yeah. But you really need to know where 50 is as well, where you're starting to get conscious of that stress in your body, because this is the point at which a conversation with your boss, when it starts to go south, if you're getting up above 50, you're losing the ability to make rational, conscious decisions because you're getting into that fight or flight. And you're going into that zone where there's all this trauma kind of, lurking around. If it's a conversation with your partner, same deal. So really, this exercise is about finding your normal, finding your 0, finding your 50, knowing what it feels like when you start to creep up. Hopefully, gosh, I hope nobody ever gets to 100, because the skill is at learning where we are when we're creeping, and to just kind of come back. So, which brings me to the second thing. All of this is about learning to trust the body again. Yeah. Because the undeniable fact is this is an incredibly intelligent meat suit we're living in. Yeah. And it is designed for our safety. And these tells are designed for our safety. So if we can be in our body and go, okay, I just noticed my stomach tighten. I just noticed my shoulders roll forward. Right. What's going on for me right now? Yeah. Trust the body. learn to trust it, and to learn to trust it, you got to learn to listen to it.
Yeah.
So this is really, it's an interesting one. So one exercise that I do, it's called signs of safety, signs of danger.
Okay.
Now, often what we try to do is we try to avoid stimuli that we do, that's uncomfortable. We try to, like, okay, my breath's speeding up, I'm feeling all of the symptoms of a panic attack, but I don't want to have a panic attack.
Right.
So I'm just going to ignore it.
I'm just gonna pretend like it's not happening. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Okay, so this is what happens. We've got 10 cranial nerves. I think we've got 10 cranial nerves. One of them is an absolute badass. It's the vagus nerve. So it runs from your brain, it runs down behind your ear, down your neck, and it actually runs into your gut. And the miracle of this vagus nerve, we're starting to understand all sorts of things about it. They're starting to use it to control epilepsy. But one of the things that the vagus nerve does is it connects our gut brain and our brain. So that gut instinct, the gut instinct is actually the enteric nervous system. Billions of neurons floating around in your gut and your brain up here. You get a gut instinct that says you're not safe. The vagus nerve's going to shoot it up to your brain and go, not safe. The brain's going to go, right, bitch, fight or flight.
Right. And there's no stopping it. You are literally wired for this. Like,
yes, literally wired.
You can't pretend it away.
No. So what we need to do is, like, when this vagus nerve, because if we've got good vagal tone, good vagus stimulation, we can also know when we're safe, know when we're like connected. We can feel that connection. It's a beautiful thing. There's a whole lot. I'm not explaining it very well. There's more science on it, blah, blah, blah. It's really late over here. Signs of safety, signs of danger is a skill that goes, okay, I'm trying to avoid this panic attack. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to look around for signs of safety. I'm going to look around my environment and just assess it. So signs of safety right now for me, I can see on the screen here that my front door is closed and my shed door is closed. You can see it there. Yeah. I can see here that my back door is closed. Nobody else is in my house apart from my sleeping children. I'm in a chair that's really comfortable. Both of my feet are on the floor. The temperature's perfect. It's quiet. I can't hear any sounds other than the ticking clock and the wind outside. So I'm safe. So what are the signs of danger? So I might, if I was feeling anxiety, which I'm not right now, I might go, okay, my hands are shaking.
Yeah.
I might go, okay, my hands are shaking. That's a sign of danger. It's a bodily sign of danger. I might go, okay, all right, I'm sweating. That's a sign of danger. Okay, what other signs of danger can I find? What other signs of danger can I find? And instead of avoiding the stimuli, which is avoidance is a PTSD thing, a CPTSD thing, just don't look at it, and it allows the panic to continue. We go look at the danger, and then when we can't find it, we're allowed to come back to ourselves and go, okay, in this space, in this moment, within my body, I'm okay. And we actually allow to bring notice to it. So that is a powerful tool that I'm beginning to learn. All right. Boundary bath time is what I call this.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds intriguing.
All right. Okay, so I've mentioned, I've kind of signposted this a couple of times. I'll just set some boundaries. I'll just say no. And it's just not that easy. A lot of us, when we've experienced trauma in any type, we say years later, oh, I'm an empath. Sometimes people are empaths. Yes, sometimes that is true. Sometimes it is unhealed trauma and the lack of the ability to draw a boundary around ourselves. Sometimes it is, and I'm not saying empathy is bad. Empathy is hella good.
Yeah.
If you can draw boundaries around it. But what I've found, especially in women or women identifying circles, or in groups where we've had to kind of mold ourselves to the safety of the environment around us, we've had to kind of shape how we interact with others, is we can make other people's emotional junk our emotional junk. So how do we draw boundaries if we're going to take on the emotional junk anyway?
Yeah.
So I realized I had to take a few steps back before I could actually set boundaries. I had to learn how to go, is this my stuff or is this not my stuff?
Yeah.
And what I actually had to do was, like, it was a self-care thing at the beginning, but like I had to kind of set a ritual around it so that it meant something. So it wasn't just something I was thinking about, like, so it was something purposeful. So I'd do the candles, I'd run the bath, I'd play some, instrumental music. So I wasn't singing along to it or thinking about what the words were. And I just kind of audit what was, I hate the word audit, sounds Scientology-like. It's not, I'm not a Scientologist. I just go through, what am I carrying around? Okay, I've had this conversation with my ex-husband, and clearly we didn't agree, and I'm still carrying around his reaction. Do I need to carry around his reaction? No. Okay, that's not my stuff. Right. So I had to draw an emotional boundary around that. Okay, I've made the choice not to let my parents or my siblings know my address. And mum is hassling me for my address, even though I know that as soon as I give it to her, I'm not safe in my own house. She's hassling me for the address because she's bought a $30 present for my son. What's worth more? My safety, my sense of safety in my own house, or a present for my son?
Right.
Her sense of entitlement. Is this my stuff or is this not my stuff? And I had to just actually learn to draw an emotional boundary around what was mine and what was not mine. And it took practicing this for a while before I could actually, in the moment, go with people, go, okay, I see your emotional response there. Yeah. And actually pick it up and walk away from situations going, I didn't pick that up. I didn't pick up, I didn't put the monkey on my back. So I call it boundary bath time, because it was there was a sense of ritual around kind of putting time aside to learn this skill. But I think it's important to do something to learn to assess whether you're picking up other people's emotional baggage and making it your own problem, because that's what we've been trained to do. Right. Whether you're learning a new way, learning to move away from the old way of ensuring your safety and into a new kind of, okay, I've observed that. That's okay that you feel that way, but I'm not going to let it change my emotional well-being, my stance on things, my personal safety. So that's a little practice that, and sometimes when I just feel a little bit like I'm kind of taking things on again, I'm just like, okay, it's time to do it again. To practice this again. And the final thing, and this is often a big tell. Sometimes we can't tell where our areas of conditioning lie until they pop us. And it's uncomfortable when they do, because we can think all of the things are right, but then there's this sense of stuckness. So psycho-emotional burpees is where you go, okay, how do I think this thing? And then how do I feel it or sense it? Oh, so good. Yeah. Because sometimes that drop from here to here will show you that there's a difference between what's going on in your prefrontal cortex and what's going on in your amygdala, your limbic system, your body, your conditioning. I feel like I know I'm parenting well. I know that I am making good decisions for my children. I know I'm raising my children with bodily autonomy and this feels right. And I know I'm releasing my fear of hell and I'm not raising my children in shame and fear of hell.
Yeah.
I'm so paralyzed with the fear that I'm doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So you know here that this is where there's a gap between where you're thinking it and where you're sensing it. So that's where the gap in the conditioning lies. So when you get to this area of stuckness, and you might notice the stuckness because you've gone from a 20 or a 30 on the subjective units of distress to a 60 or a 70. And you feel a sense of blurriness and you want to change the topic and the shoulders are rounded forward a little bit and you're going, okay, is the session over with, or let's change the subject.
Right.
When you learn to be in your body, you go, okay, I've come across an area of stuckness. Let's just sit with this for a little bit and go, okay, all right, I've got to do some work here. Just note it down. You know, maybe you can come back to it. Maybe you can kind of allow yourself some kindness around that area and just realize that sometimes the prefrontal cortex, the executive function, analysis and all of that just works on a vastly different time kind of scale
Right.
to the amygdala and the limbic system and the body, where we've stored up all that we've experienced and all that we've been through. So yeah, so deconstruction, we need to not stop there, because deconstruction is in the prefrontal cortex, but deconditioning isn't.
Right. And I think that this really, like, thank you so much for all those tips, because I think that a lot of times we just deconstruct here. We try to we try to live within that toxic religious framework to break free from toxic religion, because we've been conditioned and it's all we know. And there really is some fear. There really is and there's a good reason for fear. Nobody's making this stuff up. Like leaving your community, stepping out of a system that says that, you know, if you leave this community, it's not just this life that's messed up, but then, you know, the afterlife, forget about that, right? Like, the system works because it's designed to maximize and exploit every ounce of your humanity. So when you're deconstructing, you're actually reclaiming every ounce of your humanity, but it's going to take a minute. So if you're like me in the mid 40s, it's going to take me a lot longer to learn something than it would my daughter who's 13, because she's only had 13 years of conditioning, whatever the thing is. I've had 40 years of conditioning. Of course, it's going to take a little longer to rewrite that code. So just as you're hearing all of this and you're starting to get a picture of the neurology, when you're watching the session, be kind to yourself. Be very kind and recognize that it's okay if it's hard, and sometimes it's good if it's hard, because that means you're challenging that conditioning. You're challenging that conditioning.
And also, you're an absolute badass. Like, but like, don't just go, it's okay. Go, you're an absolute badass. Like, sometimes you've just got to sit, and sorry if that's an unacceptable word to say on this podcast, on this.
No, you're fine. No, you're
honestly,
good.
Sometimes you just have to sit back and go, like, you know, sometimes you do have to do that, because what am I doing? I am breaking a chain that could have gone for generations. Like, what am I doing for my daughter? Like, I was in an arranged marriage with a gay man because my dad believed that the way to make sure that the gay conversion therapy stuck was to sleep with a virgin. Nobody told me that, but my daughter, like, so that's what I learned about consent. Okay, I'll just, you know, and I had said no to matches before, and it was obviously more nuanced than that. Like, it was, hey, do you want to marry this one, the 9th one that I've offered you? And I'm, yeah, sure, you know, like, this is better than the other losers. But my daughter at age 4, like, I kissed her on the head because she was asleep, and she looked so delicious. They look so delicious when they're asleep. And I kissed her on the head, and her eyes shot open, and she goes, I did not consent. And I was like,
You're right.
So, you know, when you make a step to break what could have been generations of trauma, you're
Right.
a badass. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you might
Even
not
if you don't believe it, just tell yourself it, you know, sometimes you have to believe what you don't believe.
yeah.
Eventually you'll say it enough that you'll condition yourself.
Yes.
It you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I hope that those of you who are watching, if you're like, yeah, I don't feel like a badass, it still feels really sketchy and scary to me.
Because look, self-praise is better than no praise, but until you can master high-fiving yourself at your desk, not so much in the supermarket, but at your desk.
Oh, I do it at the supermarket too. If you're going to be a freak, you might. What's that song? If you're going to be a mess, you might as well be a hot mess, right?
Yes. Oh,
Just let it all
100%.
out.
Roll with it. Roll with it.
Oh my goodness. We could talk for days. So much
I
wisdom
know.
you're dropping
I know.
here. Thank you for being here. Before we go, just
Thank
tell
you.
everybody where to find you real quick, and your podcast and everything, because I have a feeling people are going to want to hear more of you.
Yes, so my podcast is Unchurchable with Kit Kennedy. So you can find that on iTunes and Spotify. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Unchurchable Pod. I've got a couple of Facebook pages, but I never use them, Kit Kennedy. And unchurchablepodcast.com is where I blog and do post the links to all of my episodes. Definitely got some very interesting stuff coming up.
This is going to be a conversation that's going to be going on for a while. So thank you for opening the door for us. Those of you who are watching, I'll see you on the next session. Thanks for being here.